Let's have a look at True Publica, and their headlines is a cover story obscuring something far darker. So this is from the 28th of May, and we'll put in a bit of text. It's an excellent article, encourage people to read it. If the Tories had reacted to the COVID-19 crisis and thrown their protective ring around the vulnerable and those in care homes, as they did with Cummings, we would have seen a different outcome to the sheer scale of death that this virus has brought to Britain. But this government wants chaos. This is the modus operandi of Dominic Cummings and Boris Johnson, as they both believe no real change can come without it. Now, I really paid attention to this, Mike, because this brings us back to reports that people like Danny Kruger came out with several years ago, where they said it was the intention of the Tory party to introduce chaos, because out of chaos they were going to transform the civil service and public services.
It's really interesting, because I'm reading a book on Mao Zedong at the moment, and that was in the really early days. That was absolutely his position, that China had to be completely destroyed and rebuilt. Yeah. And this seems to be exactly the policy that we're seeing at the moment.
Exactly the policy, and encourage people to go to this article because it's referenced, it's so clear, it's so punchy, and of course the headline there says it all, that while we're watching all of this pantomime around COVID-19, something very dark is happening at the heart of government. Now, True Publica references back to the work by Carole Cadwalladr, and this article is back to 2019, where she is commenting on what was happening around Brexit and the role of Dominic Cummings. She's bringing in Cambridge Analytica. But we are now able to go back into this work, and we're starting to look at Dominic Cummings in a different way. So again, another article that I'm going to encourage people to go and read for yourself and see what she has to say. But we've taken a little bit of an excerpt here. So she says, for Dominic Cummings, it's an opportunity to drive an axe through everything he hates most about the British state, starting with Parliament. That's quite a statement itself. Starting with Parliament and ending, I suspect, with the civil service. That's the deal I believe he will have done with Johnson. He'll help Johnson get Brexit through, and in exchange, Cummings will blow up his hated civil service. Now, this wasn't a throwaway comment that this lady had made on Dominic Cummings, because he had attacked her when she started to point out what he was up to, but her own work around Cambridge Analytica in particular, and what it was doing around the time of the Brexit debacle was really astonishing. She went on to say this: it seems absurd now our electoral laws rest on a gentleman's agreement, an agreement that Cummings threw a stick of dynamite at. His decision to do the same to our famously unwritten constitution should have surprised no one. The noise, the anecdotes and the tall Westminster tales are flares he sends up before he drops his bombs somewhere else entirely. It's not his genius that we should be debating, it's our own stupidity. There is a smash and grab of our democracy going on in real time, and this silences complicity. So I think it's remarkable that she is another person who's looking at Cummings and saying this man is out to destroy serious elements of the country, our constitution, how government works, how civil society works. And this, of course, is the repurposing of government that our Westminster insider warned us about, Cummings in the lead. So let's move on just to this one, the Canary. And we're going back now to the 13th of May 2017. And this was part of the key detail that the Canary put out about the network of people who were helping to drive Brexit. Now, UK column hasn't changed our stance on Brexit. We needed to get out of the European Union. But what we're beginning to see is that something far darker was helping to move that was not in the best interests of Britain. So this was a wiring diagram, and here we can see central Cambridge Analytica, but also aggregate IQ, linking in also organisations like Veterans for Britain and big names in America, such as Donald Trump and his campaign group itself. But let's just put in a little bit of text here. I apologise, it's small. I'll read a little bit. It said there's an even bigger player in this industry. There's Sophie Schmidt, advised CSL head Alexander Nix to check out the work of US data intelligence agency Palantir Technologies. Schmidt, the daughter of Google chairman Eric Schmidt, used to work for SCL Elections, which was later renamed Cambridge Analytica. So we've got some very interesting connections here. Palantir is chaired by billionaire and PayPal founder Peter Thiel, who is also a board member and a major investor of Facebook. Earlier this year, Thiel joined Trump's transition team. Apparently, Palantir has contracts to handle vast data sets on UK citizens for British spy agency GCHQ, as well as US citizens for the NSA. In addition, Palantir has developed an aid to the spyware X-Keyscore program used by NSA and its Five Eyes partners, and subsequently expanded by whistleblower Edward Snowden. Such spyware could be useful for garnering consumer data, including, no doubt, voter lifestyle preferences. And I'll just add this as one other comment from another excellent article. Encourage people to go back and read it. Democracy Questioned, New York University Associate Professor Tamsin Shaw sums up the application of voter behavior technologies. Quote, "This is military-funded technology that's been harnessed by a global plutocracy and is being used to sway election in ways that people can't even see, don't even realize it's happening to them. It's about exploiting an existing phenomena like nationalism and then using it to manipulate people at the margins." And the reason I'm putting this up on the screen, Mike, is because we are now back where we know that the British government is using the COVID crisis to unleash applied behavioural science on the public. We've seen inside the SAGE reports that they want to ramp up fear of the virus in order to get their policy through. And now we're casually saying we've extended from 21 days to 28 days, locking people in their homes. But what have we got behind this? Massive software to record everything we're thinking and saying. So let's just put one more quote from the Canary, but I've used that excellent image from TruePublica. And this is from Cummings himself. He says, changing the course of European history via the referendum only involved about 10 crucial people controlling, and these figures are his figures, 10 to the 7, while its effects over 10 years could be on the scale of 10 to the 8, 10 to the 9 people, and 10 to the 12 pounds. So 10 people controlling a vast social economic change by means of all this military data collection that we're seeing, including Palantir, which is working with GCHQ. I'll end here because one of the key people who've been really digging into Cummings came up with this as just a little forecast of what they think has been going on. The first stage was for this power group to take control in the UK, to take back control in order to steer the UK. The second stage was to get Brexit done to their satisfaction, not to the satisfaction of the public. The third stage was to get in Maven and ARPA, which you've talked about, so we're into the data collection. And they are saying that Cummings wants to get this accomplished by the 1st of January next year. And the delay in releasing us from lockdown is that all this can go on in the quiet. So the key agendas are the use of applied psychology, including these three-word phrases. They're using game theory. They are very keen on heading into genetic engineering and moving on to social score credits. So this person is saying we've got 6 months to stop what's happening before it's complete. Cummings will move on and Boris will be replaced by Gove. That's just the opinion of one person, but we've got some very interesting stuff happening. And a little bit of a hot subject for you, Alex, but if I can just say to you, it is unprecedented that we are now using the intelligence services to come right into the heart of society to hoover up data, whether it's in the NHS or from the average person via their phones. And none of this is being debated or in Parliament or declared to the British people. This is very sinister.
Parliament is the link word between what Carol Cadwallader has brought out and what you have put on screen after that, because Parliament is the only means we have constitutionally of determining the people's will. Now, if you have looped that out of the question, removed it from the equation, as it seems Mr. Cummings is very keen to do, then you have obviated another of the three-word slogans that we have, one that he really hates, which is kick them out. In fact, Winston Churchill, if I can use a mild expletive on the lunchtime news that Churchill actually put in his own papers and speeches, he said the benefit of democracy is that if all else fails, you can kick the buggers out. Now, if you don't have elected members of Parliament in the control and questioning arrangements for all that you've set out, then all of this apparatus can go on from government onto government, can't it? That collection of people, as I experienced when I was at GCHQ, can behave as a supranational blob, the Anglo-American Five Eyes Alliance, hoovering up the data, learning to control it and socially analyze it in ever cleverer ways, as I saw between the beginning of the millennium and when I left in 2009. Great changes. But the final piece of the jigsaw is, of course, this is corporate intelligence, as I've always emphasized in speeches on this subject. Really, the constitutional arrangement for the Queen actually saying this is lawful, I will sign it, in the way that presidents do in republics, actually was delegated to a number of people acting on behalf of the Queen. So we have actually a unicameral, not tripartite Parliament now, just the Commons, and look at what the MPs are doing on Twitter, jumping up and down saying we must have digital voting, otherwise they will never be able to get this through. So the whole concept of assembling and taking counsel has been flattened and ground to dust in all of this. All you've got left is a few people pressing buttons as they are directed.
Absolutely, sorry.
So, and I'll just add, with Cummings, they're boasting that 10 people are capable of pressing buttons which affect trillions of pounds. I think that was the right figure, trillions of pounds, and millions of people. Unbelievably dangerous times, and nobody, well, I'm going to say we're doing it, and obviously a few other of media outlets are starting to do, are asking these key questions about what Cummings is being allowed to do. But I just push once again, why the delay? Why do they want us in lockdown? Because while we're locked up and running around with our heads full of fuzzy stuff, they can dismantle the whole of the Constitution.